Hey guys, I just recently purchased my first 4K monitor and wanted to share my experiences with it and why I'm returning it. Let me first explain where I'm coming from. I currently own a PG279Q. It has a 1440p 144Hz G-Sync IPS display. It's a very pricey monitor, but it's one of my favorite investments I've made when it comes to my computer. So I'm mostly a PC gamer, but I do some light photo and video work. Since I already have the very fast PG279Q to play games on, the 4K monitor will be strictly a second monitor for YouTube, Netflix, video, photo editing, and then just regular web browsing. My expectations for the 4K monitor are to create overall sharper images and text, and also to create more space when video editing. Currently, when I edit videos, I feel somewhat cramped, and I was hoping to get a little bit more real estate for the timeline. So here's my criteria for the 4K monitor. I wanted another 27-inch Asus monitor to match my main monitor, and I needed it to be IPS, being that I will be doing photo and video editing. So Asus had two options for me. The PB279Q, not to be mistaken with the PG279Q that I already own. The PB279Q is currently $520 and is an Asus 4K 27-inch IPS panel. The second option that Asus offers is the PG27AQ. This is pretty much the same as the PB279Q, but it's the newer gaming version that has G-Sync and overall a cooler look with slimmer bezels, but it's at a price of $880. So I ultimately purchased the PB279Q because I will not be gaming much on the 4K monitor, so G-Sync really isn't needed. Also, having to pay over $300 just to get G-Sync is ridiculous. So I have the 1440p monitor on the left and the 4K monitor on the right. So the first thing you need to do with this monitor when you get it is to go into the menu and change the display port from 1.1 to 1.2. Otherwise, you sit there like a dumbass wondering why your monitor is running at 30 Hz. Took me about an hour and a half to figure that one out. It's strange that they provide a DisplayPort 1.2 cable, but by default have the monitor configured for the older 1.1 version. Next, you have to go into the Windows display settings and make sure your scaling is set to at least 125%. 100% is a little too small. Your forehead will be touching the display to see any text using that. I opted for 150%. It seems to match the 1440p display, which is at 100%. So the first thing I did after I got it all set up was play a couple games just to see what the hype is all about with 4K. I tried out Battlefield 1 and Minecraft, and honestly, I wasn't able to tell that big of a difference. I mean, sure, you can see a little bit more detail in the foliage, and you can see some more objects further than you usually could without a 4K monitor, but it really wasn't anything crazy. I would much prefer to downgrade to a 1440p monitor and go from 60 Hz to 144. For some reason, I seem to see a bigger difference when I went from a 1080p monitor to a 1440p monitor when it comes to gaming. Maybe if I gave it some more time, I'd start to notice more with the 4K monitor. But until 4K monitors get to 144 Hz at a reasonable price and graphics cards can drive 4K games at 144 FPS, I will stick with what I have. So the next thing I did is I opened up Chrome and went to YouTube and watched a 4K video, and holy crap, it looks really good. Even when I'm just web browsing, I can really tell how many more pixels you have in text and images. It really makes it a lot easier on your eyes. So next I opened iTunes to play some music, and of course the text is insanely blurry. They clearly haven't optimized Windows for Windows scaling. I'm not surprised, being that this is Apple's application running on a Windows operating system. It's annoying, but it's meant for listening to music, so it'll be minimized majority of the time anyway. Now, Adobe Premiere had a similar yet somewhat different issue. So Adobe Premiere did not scale to the Windows scaling. So it would open up on the 1440p monitor, and then if I drag it over to the 4K monitor, it would actually stay exactly the same. So the text would actually appear to be blurry on the 4K monitor because it's still rendering the text and the images for a 1440p monitor. So things don't look sharp, they're blurry, they're meant for a monitor with larger pixels and not as many pixels inside of the text and images. So as you can see, here is a picture of the 4K monitor with a Windows notepad open that is properly scaled with 4K. So it says sharp text, which means that it's properly scaled, and it's next to Premiere that isn't scaled. So you can clearly see Premiere is a little bit blurrier. Things just aren't as clear and is optimized for the 4K display. And if we take a look at images side by side of the 1440p monitor and the 4K monitor, as you can see, they're identical. So clearly the program doesn't change at all when it moves to a 4K display. Now, the only way to get it to scale properly is if we put Windows scaling down to 100% again, just like iTunes. So if we put that down, as you can see, it's very sharp and it looks a lot better. Now, Photoshop seemed to behave better, but yet in a way worse. So in Photoshop, it defaults to 100% scaling. So even if I have Windows set to 150% scaling on the 4K monitor, Photoshop still renders its items and menus to be 100% scaling. So as you can see, here's a 1440p screenshot and then a 4K screenshot. As you can see, everything got a lot smaller. So it's optimized for the display correctly, but yet the menu items are way too small and unusable in some parts of it. One very annoying thing I found is dragging windows from one monitor to the other. Windows lags to change the window scaling from 100% to 150. So let's say I have File Explorer on the left monitor and everything's scaled to 100%. It needs to then move to 150% scaling when it moves to the 4K monitor, and it can't seem to do this smoothly. It just sits there and lags for like half a second, and it's just not pretty at all. It's actually really annoying, and sometimes the mouse loses the window, so you have to, re-grab the window and move it over. And of course, the only way to fix this is to change the 4K monitor to 100% window scaling, and then it goes back to normal. And because you have a lower resolution monitor with a higher resolution monitor, your mouse can't move to the next monitor from the top and bottom edges. It actually has to be moved through the middle. As you can see with this display, you clearly see that Windows assumes that the 1440p monitor is a smaller size. So it's taking some getting used to trying to remember to keep my mouse in the middle of the monitors to move it over from one to the other. And just another thing I have to really throw in there, going from a 144 Hz monitor to a 60 Hz monitor really sucks. 144 Hz isn't just beneficial when gaming, it makes the monitor feel so much faster and responsive. Just moving windows around, clicking around, it's just so much quicker and easier on a 144 Hz monitor. You definitely have to take it slow and get used to the mouse moving a little bit slower and choppier on the 4K monitor. Another thing I've noticed as well, the mouse sensitivity is changed from one monitor to the other. It takes longer to move my mouse from one end of the screen to the next on the 4K monitor than it is on the 1440p monitor. This was something I was struggling to get used to. It shouldn't base mouse sensitivity on the resolution of the monitor. So at this point, the main reasons I got the monitor for, about half of them I can't even do. I mean, sure, Photoshop and Premiere works. It's just not clearly optimized for the 4K display. The text and objects are blurry and clearly still running based off of the 1440p monitor. And I'm not going to go changing the scaling of Windows every time I want to use those applications. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty hit or miss, and I shouldn't be feeling hit or miss about a product I spent over $500 on. So I ended up returning the monitor. I think I'll give 4K monitors a try again once more time has passed to let 4K 144 Hz monitors pricing come down. I feel like the scaling lag, mouse sensitivity, and mouse edges will never be fixed though. I think this is just something you have to deal with when you have two monitors at different resolutions. So the only solution is to have two 4K monitors. It will be a while before I switch to two 4K 144 Hz monitors. I hope this guide sheds some light on people looking into getting a 4K monitor. If you aren't used to 144 Hz and are looking to have only 4K monitors in your setup, then I say do it. Just keep in mind many applications haven't been optimized for Windows scaling yet. If you're planning on buying a 4K monitor to share with a lower resolution monitor, then I say take into consideration the annoying side effects before making the purchase.